All right, well, welcome. It's 5 o'clock. We'll call our meeting to order. And we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Ready to begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our first item on the agenda is communications and presentations. Superintendent Cole, do we have any written communication?
We do not have any written communications at this time.
All right. Well, if anyone who's joining with us, if you'd like to speak, you may use the chat feature on the Zoom call, or send us an email with your questions and we will address them at our next meeting. So, our next item is Beat the Odds Scholarship. And
So I'm going to introduce Michelle Napier, who is then going to speak briefly and then introduce the recipient, Jared O'Neill. So Michelle, if you're out there, the floor is yours.
I am. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sweet. Okay, so Jared O'Neill is one of our avid students, and he applied for Beat the Odds. And Beat the Odds is a scholarship through Stand for Children. And this year, approximately 300 or so kids just from the state of Oregon applied. They narrow it down. Jared had to go through 2 rounds of interviews. The last group of interviewees was about 15, and they usually pick only about 4 to 6 kids to earn this award. And it's really for kids who have overcome extreme adversity and want to go on to college and make a better life for themselves. And so Jared was awarded one of these scholarships, which is amazing. For those of you guys that remember Vincent Washington, he's been another recipient. So Jared is in great company with Vincent in earning this scholarship. He received a $4,000 renewable scholarship, which is amazing. And they also provide continuous help and support as students are in college. And, you know, these kids usually don't have a lot of support at home. And I think you'll hear that in Jared's story, but really want to improve their lives and become something better than maybe what they experienced as a child. And so Jared is a huge success story and avid. And so I wanted him to share a little bit about his life journey, what Avid has done for him, and then, you know, what this scholarship means to him. So he is in the office next to me, so hopefully he will unmute himself and share a little bit about himself.
Floor is yours, Jared.
All right. My name is Jared O'Neill. For Avid, I have a learning disability that has held me back throughout the years. I've never got held back in a grade, but I was always a lot slower learner than everyone else. I was always had to be in special ed classes so I could actually try to keep up with everyone else or learn more slowly. And then when I got into Avid, Avid taught us on how to stay organized and how to take notes for our classes so we wouldn't stay behind, how to keep a calendar so we know what is due at which day or what we need to work on. And throughout my time being an Avid and in high school, I self-consciously used those skills. And before I knew it, I was improving in my grades. I was doing better in classes, and I was doing better in Avid, and I was able to do work at my house that I usually wouldn't do. And one day I was in class, and then one of my teachers for study skills, I got pulled out of that class, and he told me that I no longer needed to be in that class, that I was able to take other regular classes, and that when next year hit, I would be able to take AP classes. And from now in senior year, I am taking AP Government. And
Jared, why don't you talk a little bit about your life story and some of the adversity that you've overcome?
For my life story, right in the beginning of high school, that's basically where it all began. Right in the start of high school, I had no power in our house, so I had to live with a friend. And then I went to Napier, and I told her that I would not be able to turn in certain assignments that we needed to do because we needed to have a parental signature, and I told her that I would not be able to do that. And when I told her that, a few hours later, she brought me down to Mr. Coulter's office, and then with that, she was able to set me up with certain programs that helped me out, get clothes and food. And throughout that, I knew that I had people to watch my back, so I never wanted to let them down. So I try to still do my best in school because I knew if I ever stopped, there wouldn't be really a future for me. I wouldn't want to have the same past that I do now or did. I wanted to have a better future for myself, so I still stuck with it. I did my grades. I stayed in school. I never stopped coming into school. And throughout that, I lost my sister. I lost my mother. I lost my sister to my mother that was on drug use, which she started going a little overboard, and my sister got taken away from her, and she got in custody of with her father. That me and him do not talk at all. We do not like each other, so I'm not able to see her very often. I will be able to go on a call with her maybe once every few months if I'm able to. I don't really talk with my mother. I had to tell her that if she did not leave me alone, I was gonna have to go to CPS to try to get a restraining order against her. And with that, I was St. Clair, one of my old teachers that I used to have. He was always there. He's helped me out, stay with it. He invited me over to dinner at his house, and when we were driving back, he told me that he was very impressed with how I'm doing, and he told me, which I've never forgotten, that I've never given up, and he said that I should never give up because he doesn't. I wouldn't want my future family that I'm gonna have to have the problems that I do. I'm gonna want them to have the life that I wasn't able to have. Let them be kids. Let them have fun. So that's just what I'm thriving for, so I can have a successful life and give my future kids and my family a life that they can look forward to and be happy with.
Jared, what are your plans for next year, bud?
Plans for next year, I really want to go to OSU. I don't know why, but I've always just loved that college. I love the feeling of it. It's just always been there. Always when I thought of when people asked me where I wanted to go to college or where I did go to college, I just always thought OSU was a very nice place to say that I was from. And for right now, what I'm looking into is marine life, that I can study marine life and see what different animals and their patterns that they do in the ocean. So that's really what I'm trying to study for right now.
That's awesome. Kirk, do you guys have any questions? Any?
Board have any questions? I don't see any questions, but Jared, on behalf of myself and the school board and Grants Pass School District, congratulations and well done. Very proud of you, what you've accomplished and what you're going to accomplish in the future. So kudos, man. Have a blast next year. Finish strong your senior year.
Thank you. It means a lot for this opportunity.
Yeah. And everybody out in the audience, even though you're on mute, please give Jared a round of applause. Well done. Thank you, Jared. Thanks, Nate. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that's fabulous. And Mrs. Napier, thank you very much for the Abbott program. We're excited to see the change that you're able to do in the lives of these young people. And Jared, nice job. We're proud of you. Keep it up. All right. We should bring more feel-good stories to the board. Maybe during executive session after the. All right. We'll move on to item number 3, our consent agenda. So we need to approve our October 27th board agenda and also approval of our October 15th draft minutes.
This is member Durbin, so moved.
Coolman, second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Have a roll call vote, please.
Member Green?
Yes.
Member Durbin?
Yes.
Member Brownell?
Yes.
Board Chair Nelson?
Yes.
Member Coleman?
Yes.
Member Wilkins?
Yes.
Member Richardson?
Yes. Okay, thank you. Item number 4, reports. No action, it says, so I guess we're done. Just kidding. All right, so our staff reports, we'll hear about our music program tonight.
Yeah, so in times of distance learning, and you think, how in the world are you going to teach music? Grants Pass School District, a district that really prides itself on music. And so these folks that are about to present are a great example of why they do it well in person as well as now virtually. So I'm going to turn it over to Director Evans. The floor is yours.
Thank you, everybody. Super excited to have these three present to you tonight. Our orchestra teacher, lead director, Krista DeBolt, our choir director, Julie Lynn Hart, and our new band director, which I'm not sure you've met, Louis Norfleet, yet. So this is a great opportunity. You know, when we started problem solving, what is distance learning going to look like? These three led the charge with all of our music teachers. I see some of our other rock star music teachers are on the board meeting tonight as well. And they did a lot of work looking at different curriculum and materials and how we could approach music instruction in a virtual setting. We have adopted a few tools that they are using in their Canvas courses, and each one of them is going to tell you a little bit about what music instruction looks like in a virtual setting. And we're going to start tonight with Krista DeBolt.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here. I teach orchestra, and I'll just give you a little bit of glimpse into our classes. We are essentially doing a combination of all of these things in all of our music classes from middle school to high school. The first pictures are here are just some glimpses of my kids. Todd, you can just click through. There's 4 pages of kids there. That's not all of them. That's just the ones that said it was okay for me to take their picture and show you guys. So they're doing a great job. And I've been telling them they're actually doing better than I thought that they would. So I'm so proud of them for hanging in there with us. Class time during CDL, the kids play with us. If you look at that, thanks, Todd, go ahead and click that. This was a live class. Since we don't have elementary classes right now, we're hoping for hybrid. We're teaming and doing a lot of team teaching. So this was a day with my string and concert orchestra. Great party going at this point. And Todd, you can stop it. During that day, I recorded it, and then I have a whole music file with tons of audio tracks and video tracks, so the kids can go find their part and play with us, even not during class time when they're at home to practice. Every piece that I put out there has 5 different parts. There's a violin, violin 1, violin 2, viola, cello, bass. And so we're trying to teach all of those parts, and each class has different music. So it's hours and hours of recording tracks for us. And luckily, we have some time. Laura and Tommy can help me do the recording tracks, and I'm helping them in their middle school classes too. So we are continuing our recovery program with Dr. Teagle as well. That's a program we've kind of developed. We're taking it to the state and Northwest virtual conferences this year. And it's just a way for them to keep their bodies healthy, which right now I think is more important than ever because of the type.
Once again, with our fingers.
So this is just a second of Dr. Teagle showing them how to unwind their hands.
Circles, remember the thumb's a very unique part of these digits. So you drop over a little bit of a roll, let it open up, and then you bring it up. So it's 4 little tiny micro movements that you're incorporating, and then you just smooth them out. So what you run therapy?
I know I'm having trouble with my hands, tremendous amount of typing plus playing. The nice thing about our music classes is, yes, we're on the computer and yes, we're on Zoom, but we're also active. They're actively playing with us and actively doing these things. Some special guests we've had so far this year. The Borromeo Quartet was from Boston. That's the picture of them on the slide. They did a virtual performance for us. they could only do one performance. So we did it at 8 a.m. in the morning, and we invited middle school and high school string players. And we had about 180 kids on that call at 8 in the morning. They had to get up early. The middle school kids, it was optional for them, and we had a whole bunch of them show up. So it was pretty exciting. They got to interact with the quartet on Zoom. And then we also had the Delgani Quartet from Eugene perform for us. And here's a little bit of what they did.
He taught Beethoven when Beethoven was a young composer. Haydn's just one generation earlier than Beethoven, as was Mozart. And so I think it's really interesting for pieces like these to hear them back to back because the composers are so linked musically. And the same when you get into the 20th century.
The kids had a chance to talk with both quartets and ask them questions through the chat. The Borromeo Quartet showed them a piece of original music, which was cool. The kids really liked that part of it. The Rogue Valley Symphony is pairing with us. They are coming actually to my classes once a week, and the Rogue Valley Symphony pays these musicians to come work with me. So it's no cost to me, but the kids can be in small breakout rooms with them. So there's 6 of them in a room instead of 80 of them with me. And we did it this morning, and that's been a blessing too. We have a virtual fall orchestra festival on November 14th. So that's kind of the special things we've done. The next slide is kind of a day, just kind of how we are living on Zoom. So this clip, Todd, will play the whole thing.
Everybody mute this time. Breathe.
So that was just at the end, a little bit of sound trap. As you can tell, playing together on Zoom where we hear each other doesn't work at all because of the delays. And so this is a program where the kids can play and record their track and we can start building tracks. We are working right now on a performance that we're going to try to get out to the elementary students and give it to Kristen and on Facebook and such. It's The Evil Eye and the Hideous Heart. It's based on the short story, The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. And yes, we had story time in orchestra. We read the story before we started working on this. And then we dressed in costumes on Monday and we're starting to put it together. So here's just a tiny little piece of that we're working on. And now I'm going to turn it over to Julie, who's going to show you a little bit of her sound trap things and also talk more about a different program we're using.
It helps if I unmute myself. So hello, and Krista, I have not seen all of that yet, and that was really awesome to see. It's really exciting, and I feel like my presentation may be a little more sterile, but here we are. This is, so in choir, we've been doing very much similar classes to what Krista's been doing in the sense that I am playing the piano and singing while all of the students are muted. Because as you heard from Krista's presentation, if they all tried to make sounds at the same time, the result is not as pleasing as you would hope. So I play the piano and sing, students mute themselves. The biggest changes for the students this year has been that number one, they can't hear each other anymore when they sing, which is very different for the students. They don't normally sign up for choir to be soloists. They want to be in a class and sing with other people. So that's been a big change for them. And then obviously the fact that there's no scheduled performances. And then the biggest change for us as teachers, I think, has been the fact that we can't assess their performance skills in real time. And so for that reason, we found we needed to be creative with technology and integrate that more into our classrooms this year. So always think it's great to have a performance experience for students. And just as Krista is doing with her students, creating a virtual performance, the choir is doing the same thing, hoping to try to get something out right in time for Halloween, coming up later this week. And so originally I was planning on using Soundtrap anyway, but was just going to have my own teacher account and not worry about student accounts. But as I was going through this process, it helped me change my mind that I think the students actually need the access to this as well. And I'd like to show you a little bit of the reason why. So if you would click on that first video that says pre-mixing, you'll have to go back just for a moment. Yep, so if you click on that video, it should open a link. And it should open a video, yes. So this is what it sounds like at first when you get all those files from the students. That's probably good. So, yeah, I should have said you don't need to play the whole thing. So it's probably not super fun to listen to, but that's what it sounds like when you get all the files in individually, and then you still have to take all of the time to separate everything out, line everything up, get all the words in the right spot, end everybody's words at the right spot. So the final product that we came up with is the post-mixing box. So you can go ahead and click that one.
Double, toil and trouble, fire and burning cauldron, bubble, double, double, toil and trouble, something wicked this way comes.
So that's the final product that we ended up with, but the main difference between those two different sound files is a lot of teacher work on editing. And what I realized was there was a better way to do this by allowing the students to have their own account and have more ownership of the final product. And so with Soundtrap, as Krista was saying, the students can have their own accounts. They can collaborate with each other. And what I love about it is that they can go in and not only hear themselves, but hear each other and work on those things that we normally would have been working on if we were here in person. We can work on blending our vowels, and we can work on cutting off together because they can hear each other and collaborate with each other. So that's been really a great part of being able to use Soundtrap, and definitely the best part of my year so far was when I played that sound file for the students and they got to hear themselves as a choir and their faces just lit up because they haven't heard themselves together in so long. So that was a really, really neat moment. So moving forward, we will be using Soundtrap, and we will be letting the students have their own accounts. So the other program that we've been using is Breezing Through Music Theory, and you can go ahead and skip on to the next slide. And we use Breezing Through. It's a unique online music theory curriculum that allows our students to progress at their own pace in order to reach fluency in their music literacy. And then the next little thing is a quote directly from Breezing Through. It is designed for performance programs, which is perfect. That's us, all of us. And it offers an interactive approach that builds self-confidence and makes learning to read and understand music a snap. So moving forward, why we're using Breezing Through, I'll try to go through this quickly. Basically, theory is a building block for music. All of our kids need it, and so it's been difficult to grab. Most of the content that we have is in books and it's not digitized, and so finding something that was already available was wonderful. I'll let you read through the rest on your own, so I'm not just reading this whole presentation to you, but you can click the next button. Ooh, that's going a little slow. But Breezing Through Music Theory also helps us assess some of those skills that, again, we can't see in real time anymore. We can't hear if the students are clapping the rhythms correctly or counting correctly. We can't tell if they're singing the notes correctly. And so this is something else that can help us with that. Yes, and I love that this program meets the students' individual needs. It can challenge them at their own level because they can move at their own pace. So the students that don't know very much theory at all can start at the very beginning, and those who have a lot of theory under their belt can just breeze ahead. So a lot more learning happens in less time. So you can go ahead and click on this as well, and it will give you a little preview of the program. And then the last slide just has, oops, we don't want to hear that part again. And the last slide just has some quick quotes from students regarding the program. That one says, if you know something already, you can breeze through it, but if you don't understand, you can review the lessons. And with that, I will turn it over to Lewis Northfleet. We'll come back for questions at the end.
Great. That's wonderful. Krista and Julie, awesome job. And the choir teams and orchestra teams have also been really fantastic. It's been inspirational to join this team in Grants Pass. So many great teachers and wonderful families and students, of course. I'm from Grants Pass myself. I'm a graduate of Grants Pass High School from 1992. And my parents still live right up the street here. And in fact, we just bought a house 3 doors down from them. So we're back in the neighborhood and we're just thrilled to be here. So without further ado, we'll talk more about that stuff later. Just so happy to be here. The band team, as Trisha mentioned, all the music teams, we had the collective music team that came together when all this started to come into focus over the summer, as we started to realize that we were going to be in CDL and it was not going to be hybrid. All the teams, our music team split off into elementary, strings, choir, and band, and really got together to brainstorm what we needed to do to move forward. And so, as you saw, Krista, the orchestra and the choir, they're just doing fantastic things with their students. And for band, we wanted to highlight the software, the tool that we're using in our classes. And I also, well, we'll just kind of go through here. We'll start here with these slides. Go ahead and move forward. You can see that's a Grants Pass band slide. That's Miss Pinar, who has joined us today. Hello, Alani. She's in the meeting with us. That's some of the South Middle School band there. And there is Mr. Bolden and Carrie. That's some of the North band. So we're all using smart music. Some of our goals with the program are to provide engaging and meaningful instruction, connecting with individual students. Wow, this is a tough one. And we've been working really hard on this. And these tools that Julie and Krista mentioned, I think are really helping us do that. We want to build community, and certainly through the performances you've seen Krista and Julie and their teams build, they are doing that. And we want to propel students on their musical journey and keep them moving forward, which is also, that's also a challenge in these times. So those are kind of the guiding goals here. Now for us in band, we are using smart music. And we are doing some similar things. The choir and orchestra and band programs are doing similar things in terms of our delivery. Like, I loved hearing Krista's video. I've heard that same video, and in fact, the first week, you know, I had all these grand visions of us playing together online, and I thought, oh yeah, it's going to be great. And then we all heard those sounds the first week, and we're like, whoa, you know. So what we're using, and especially so far this year, the middle schools have been using quite extensively smart music, the smart music software. So I'm going to take you through how smart music works. I wanted to let you know what the kind of what our team thinks of how smart music works for them. So there's some quotes here from our band team. Mr. Sutton, who's also on this call, I would agree with him that it's the best online resource for our students for band. It makes you feel like they're playing in a group, and you'll see shortly as this is demonstrated how that kind of works. Let's look at the next one. Ms. Pinar likes the recording and grading feature built in. And I will tell you that Ms. Pinar's quote is much longer than just this one. If I were to say there's a lead smart music user, it's actually Ms. Pinar. She does a great job with this, and she's taught us a ton about this. So she's been a big advocate for this. Mr. Bolden really appreciates the vast musical resources that are available. The really cool thing about this is because of our subscription, we have access to thousands of musical pieces that we're able to get out to the students, and they can have access to those. And then Mrs. Hudson Bircher, she pointed out some really great things about this too. You know, our students don't all have music stands at home. They don't have a printer, for example, some of them. And so this platform, as you'll see here, provides music for them to read as they play along. It's very motivating. You're gonna see me play along with this thing, and it's fun. I think fun, I highlighted in red because fun, we gotta make sure there's some fun. We're short on fun right now, staring at the screen, right? And we really gotta focus on making school fun. That's something as educators, we can be dynamic in the classroom and move around and get to know kids on an individual level and make our subject fun. And it's tough to do it. This is year 24 for me, and this is like year 1. You know, everybody's working their tail off to try to make this fun for students. So I've got a couple quick videos. We will watch them in total, please, Todd. Here's the first one. Just a couple quick demos of smart music.
All right, now I'm going to play The Jazz Police by the Gordon Goodwin Big Fat Band. It's a group out of LA. This will kind of give you an idea of what it feels like to work with smart music. You'll see what the students experience. While it's not exactly the same as playing with people in person, it does simulate being part of a group. And it's really, this is the best software out there for this kind of individual at-home practice. And we're thankful that all of our students have access to that. So here we go. You're going to really love this tune.
Got to have a little music to pep things up here.
I'd love to play the rest of the chart for you, but now we're going to move on and take a look at some of the different aspects of smart music.
All right, so now you're going to kind of see how this works in this next video clip. You'll kind of see that you're able to track along with the music, and you'll see just some of the features of it here. Okay, yeah, we'll go back to the slides. So it's cool because it gives you, it really helps you feel like you're connected. Let's go ahead and go on to the next slide. You know, yeah, we're not part of a group, but you get to play along with this music. It gives you, it's really cool too, because if you click on any note in smart music, you know, the information you would normally get from a teacher is available. So let's go to the next slide. On the Star Wars piece, if I click on one of these notes, it'll show me the fingering. It'll play the sound for me. And let's go to the next slide. Even here, this is the piece I was just playing for you. There's video tips by professionals. So there's actually a link right under the Jazz Police. You can click on a YouTube video, and the pros that played on that recording do an instructional video about how to play that tune. So there's a lot of really cool resources. And I would like to say too that I don't think this is just a resource for CDL. I think a lot of us are learning new skills and gaining new we're just getting a lot of good tools to use with our students in the future. So I can really see, I think my colleagues agree that, you know, we're learning a lot, and this is making me a much better teacher. And I think even when we're in person, this is just going to further enhance the instruction that we're providing. Let's go to the next. Oh, I have one more thing to share. The band program. Oh, I wanted to share some student quotes real quick. This is from Anna Marie at North Middle School. She says, "Smart music has been a great way to do band. All kinds of music are available, and they like to be able to record. My son is in the North Middle School band, and he also likes smart music." This is Max Hayes from South Middle School. It helps hear the whole band play. Music sounds really different when you're not the only one playing. And I will say, the real tough thing about being a musician on the other end is even though, you know, it looks like on Zoom we're all together, we're all alone. And that's been that it's kind of scary for a lot of students. Like Julie said, they don't join band or choir orchestra to just be a soloist right away. They want that community. And so smart music kind of helps us with that. And here's one more from a 7th grade student at South, Anna, who says, makes her sound like it's she's playing in band in my house, which is super cool. Now, the last thing I was going to mention before we take a few questions, if we have time, is the band has also been doing, we've been doing marching band outside, completely outdoors, as you may have heard in the neighborhood. We haven't been performing, but we did do a virtual performance this last Saturday, and I just got the video clip of like the first 30 seconds of that like an hour ago. We hired a professional to film the group and record the group, and they played to an empty stadium. But it's the best thing we could do to create a performance. So I was going to share that video with you. You can watch it when you want to. It's pretty cool. I don't know if Todd wants to toss that in, but it's been really great to have that opportunity. So, are there any questions?
Well, this is Scott Nelson. I just want to thank you and all of the teachers. I have 3 of my children in orchestra and band, and well, I was secretly hoping that the trombone wouldn't be played this year in our house. It's been going strong, and I actually been very grateful for the support that the teachers give. And I guess my one question to each of you, and you kind of answered it at the end, but I'm really curious to know, what are we learning from this experience, and what are we going to apply next year, let's say when we can come back to normal? How are all of these things that we're doing going to help you as teachers and the students moving forward? Because it seems like there's a lot of great opportunities for us.
Well, maybe I'll start and we can go in reverse. I think for me, I feel like I'm becoming a more dynamic teacher. I'm learning, you know, sometimes challenges present opportunity, right? And so that's, we all have an opportunity to learn something new right now. And we are learning it fast and hard. But I think I'm becoming a much more, my skill set is becoming much more varied. And so I think that when I go back, you know, will I use smart music or these tools all the time? Well, no, but it will enhance things. You know, we're moving into, the world is not becoming less digital. It's becoming more digital, and the students, it's important for our students to have skills in this medium. And, you know, this is something that when I was teaching in the past, at just the last institution I was at, we were talking about this. You know, we make a lot of assumptions about the skills students have, and we're discovering those right now. Like, you know, we know how to use computers and these kind of things, and not everybody has that. And I think this will also help us provide a more balanced education across the board for our students, because in music, I can also engage in these digital platforms and so forth, which I think will strengthen my teaching and the students' learning.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I love the online. Go.
I was just going to say, to bounce off Lewis, yeah, our life is not less digital at all. And I will say my skills are hugely improving. You saw me on video doing some improv stuff. That was the first time that I have ever actually improved. And it's like, I've been scared to death to do it because it's not an orchestra thing, and it was fun. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to put myself out there with you guys, and here we go. Recording stuff, I've never been good at recording stuff, and it's pretty hard. I mean, you got to have the headphones, and you got to have this going, and you have to push record. And I recorded a 5-minute track, and I didn't push record. That was really fun. So just learning how to do all this, because I know there's a huge field of digital orchestras where you're in a sound studio and you have a mic on your instrument and headphones, and that's how you're doing your tracks these days. So knowing, you know, that going in and teaching the kids to use that technology, I think is great.
And I concur with everything my colleagues have said.
Well,
thank you guys. Trish does not use the term lightly when she says rock stars. You truly are rock stars with what you're doing. I would pit this against about anything in the state or the nation in terms of how you guys are doing this remotely. I have goosebumps right now, super proudful of you and what you've been able to accomplish for students.
Thank you. We're really thankful for your support too. This is a great place to be, and we're excited. You know, this is becoming fun. I think, you know, we started off, and I got to be honest, I had a lot of fear at the beginning. I think a lot of teachers, I'm sure across the board in the district is, and I think we're starting to, a lot of people are starting to find their groove. We've got a lot of great people, and it's starting to become fun.
That's great. Thank you. You guys are doing a great job. We appreciate it.
Who's Dr. T?
Dr. Teagle is a local chiropractor. His son went through the orchestra program. He's a talented musician himself. I had the pleasure of him coming over to my house and teaching me things and us jamming together. So he's a very talented individual and a great guy, heart for kids and stuff. So donates a lot of his time.
Yeah, okay, thank you. He's an amazing man. They're an amazing fan.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll go on to superintendent reports.
Good luck copying that.
Yeah, really. You can follow
Bring
that.
your guitar.
Yeah, you do another time. So before I move on to 4.2.1, I just want to note, I'm working with board chair, Dr. Nelson, the layout of the board agenda. If you'll notice, we want to be sure that we're tying the work and the presentations and activities that we do here in board meeting on the agenda and tie that back to our overall big picture and strategic plan, and basically tying it to those pillars that we said are our priorities and where do these align with our priorities. And so you'll notice the key and then the parentheses after each agenda item. So we want to make this very relevant to stay focused on the work of our strategic plan and improvement moving forward. So jumping into a highly wonderful report, Division 22 standards are standards that we're obligated to meet. It is basically the entirety of what's expected of us from the Oregon Department of Education. Typically there are about, I think it's 48 standards for 2019-20 last school year. The legislature, through recommendation by the State Board of Ed, shrunk those down into these requirements that are in front of you, and we're obligated to report whether or not we're in compliance or out of compliance with these. And all other Division 22 standards that are not listed in here are exempt from that school year. Typically, this report is done in January following a school year, so we would be reporting on 19-20 in the month of January, which seems a little odd. They said this makes sense to streamline this now and let's get it done by November. And so I'm here to present to you tonight that we are in compliance with all of the standards as related to the modified Division 22 standards. Going forward, the legislature may need to adjust for 2020-21 depending on the limitations that COVID and distance learning has put on what we're doing. For example, state assessment is something we weren't able to accomplish last year. That may or may not be something we accomplish this year because of distance learning. So obligated to report to the board and the community, post on our website, and then notify the Oregon Department of Ed. And so that's its presentation in its entirety. If you have any questions on any specific standards, I've got my team out there to help me.
Are there any requirements that are now exempt that, I mean, I guess looking at the overall state of the district, that we could still see or get a sense that, yeah, we would still be compliant in those areas if they were still requirements, other than ones that flat out we can't do, like assessments?
I would have to go through and really put them side by side and give you an answer to that. So one this year that we talk about constantly is instructional time and how we have our schedules set up for students and how we can count instructional time under the Ready School Safe Learners guidance. And we feel reasonably good that we can meet it at the high school and elementary to the most part, but middle school is one where we're struggling to say we'll meet it.
Okay.
The process for that is if we feel like we're not going to meet that, we notify the state and we ask for a waiver under the current circumstances. And superintendents have been told that waivers will come cheap this year, and knowing the circumstances we're under. Okay. So at the recent board meeting, the board approved our SIA plan. It was accepted, and then they issued us the grant so we could get the money. We're also obligated to present to you what the grant agreement looks like, and we will be asking for your approval of the last action item of the evening. And at this time, I would also open it to public comment is the other piece we're obligated to do. So if there's anybody out there in the public, please put your inquiry in the chat, and we will do our best to address your comments or acknowledge your comments. Todd, you'll monitor that for us?
You betcha.
Okay. And that is the end of that report. It's a great read.
Did they change?
I didn't try to read it.
What's that?
Did they change it?
Nothing's been changed. No, this is, so
There,
ours was the application got approved. This is just standard legalese on how you will access and use the funds.
Are we required to accept the grant?
We are not. We are not required to accept $1.55 million.
You know, there was enough stuff in there that I'm like, I think it'd almost be worth it.
Don't tell us that now.
You're lucky
Well, we can have that discussion in a few minutes when we come to our votes. All right. Board reports and special concerns. So I will open up to the board.
So I would just, Dr. Nelson and I wanted to make sure the board saw that on the board calendar, which is also available on our website, that we have built in specific times to go over a review of the strategic plan. And this next year's calendar will reflect July to give a final report and then update the strategic plan and goals as we learn through the first year. So that's why that is on there.
Were there additional changes made to the secondary calendar? Well, I was.
The one recent change to the secondary calendar, the last day of instruction will be on Monday, the 9th. I think I have my dates correct. Monday, Tuesday is the last day to turn in work. Wednesday is Veterans Day. Thursday is clerical day for teachers to finish their grades from the first quarter. And because many teachers are only a day or two out from planning their lessons in Canvas. It's a lot of teacher work, and they're learning to get better at it. So we felt it necessary to give them a day of prep, because a lot of teachers are teaching new courses. They have these courses built, so if they're repeating those, that's not as big of a task. But if they're teaching a brand new course in this model, we felt it very important to give them that time, and so that's what Friday is of that week.
Makes sense.
So I did participate in one of the OSBA legislative policy workshop things. And I had a question for Sherry regarding health insurance based on what was presented on that. And she gave a very clear and helpful answer on that. And it has to do with, there's a limit of 3% increase on premiums, but there's different plans and different districts have different contract things also. And it gets very technical, but some districts, have basically a lot more than 3% increase, but it's because that it's offset with lower deductible plans. And so anyway, that was helpful from Sherry. I also they also mentioned that at this point, funding will be, they think will be less next year. You know, it's all very preliminary, but they're also going from a 49%, 51% to a 50-50, and that gets real tricky because, of course, expenses roll up every year, and so districts have to be careful to budget accordingly.
When are they making that change?
What's that?
When are they making that change from 49 to 51?
The next
Biennium.
plan.
We're in the second year of a biennium, so, and I wasn't able to tune in, but what I hear you saying is the next biennium, they're gonna go up 50-50 funding all.
Instead of a 49-51.
It's terrible.
That's
You should have been
basically
on
what
the
Jim
call.
Green said.
That's what Jim Green said.
Yeah.
That's a legislative decision.
Say that's stupid.
Add it to the legislative goal.
Keep that in the record, Tom.
I did not.
I'll
He meant
repeat it.
We can told about the phone, right?
Nothing he hasn't told them.
We hear you. I believe that's what they said.
Oh, that's right.
We hear you.
Like no rubber chicken or cheesecake.
I went right past, I was scheduled to be on the Saturday one. I checked my email later in the day. I was like, oh. Thank you for attending.
Any other board concerns? I do just want to echo what Kirk has said about our putting our pillars on the board agenda. I hope that we'll keep that in focus as we move forward and remind ourselves of what our focus is, our pillars, our strategic plan. And I'm grateful for that. I think that's a wise choice for us to be able to know that we're following up on those things and that it's becoming a living document instead of something that we talk about once a year and then we forget all about it. So hopefully we'll be able to remember these things as we move forward. So, all right, well, the next item on the agenda then is our property planning committee report for both stream and gap and our upland properties. So, who'd like to be the spokesman or woman for our committee?
Yeah, apparently it's me. No goes over there.
Yes, okay.
So we did, it was an easy meeting. We did lots of learning on district policy and procurement and how they decide on how to get, go out for what type of bid. And we talked about the Stringer Gap Elk Lane property. It totals 445 acres and all of the many possibilities that there are. Next steps are figuring out zoning options out there for looking into the potential for selling these properties and what those could look like. We discussed whether or not getting appraisal or just going with a realtor to get some ideas on what these properties could go for. But I think understanding the zoning and if there's any zoning changing options that would make some of these things more viable or sellable would be, we're in the information gathering stage and then try to get some data points together to be able to present to the board so we can have a discussion on what we think might be the best option for us moving forward. Everybody has their homework to kind of go and get those pieces and report back. Just we met yesterday, so we're still gathering. We did learn it was Woodlot resource. All of them are Woodlot resource right now. So yeah, next step is talk to the county about in their planning department to understand what some steps there might look like, and then maybe talk to a realtor about potential fair market values for those pieces of property.
Right. Just one other piece to add is there's 4 tax lots out there in varying sizes. One of them is huge. I think it's 320 acres. And then the other ones are all, I believe, under 100. But one thought that I had since our meeting yesterday was maybe doing a little bit of investigation into maybe if there's any other districts in the state that have similar holdings and if they are doing anything with them. Because I know we have vaguely talked about, you know, an outdoor school or a ropes course or things that could be done. And so just since our meeting yesterday, I was thinking, well, I wonder if there's any other districts in the state that have similar holdings and if they're, you know, making them useful in any way. So that was an additional thought.
So has the committee looked at how many total properties we have and how they fit in with our strategic plan moving forward?
We've specifically looked at just these 3 that are completely not being used at all, basically right now. And I think from Sherry's perspective, and Sherry, correct me if I'm wrong, they're kind of the higher risk potential properties since we aren't using them or they're not being used every day, that there is risk for, because they do get dumped on and things get set fire too there, and there's, you know, it's a bunch of scrub trees and you don't want that to catch fire and cause other damage. And so if we're not getting a lot of utility out of those, these were just kind of the first in our crosshairs, and next we'll be looking at other properties. But
I think we also had a discussion about to see if the county.
Oh, right.
Yeah, back in the day, the county tried to just take those back. They were deeded to the district, and the district was able to get a ruling that no, this is district property. But to see if the county leadership is different in the county, to see if they may be interested in acquiring it for one purpose or another. So looking at different.
One other question I had since our meeting yesterday is, do you think it would be possible to have Bill Ransom give us a little more structure around what that liability risk actually is? Just so we can have something a little bit more concrete as to what that looks like.
I don't know if it would be Bill or it could be our insurance.
Liability carrier.
Yeah, our liability carrier, to understand what our exposure is there.
We can definitely find that out, I think, pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. Sherry, can you do that, please? If you heard us.
Yep, can.
Thank you.
Well, I think, you know, as we talk about these properties and what we want to do with them, whether we sell them or use them for some alternative purpose, it would be nice to put it in context of
the rest of it,
the overall plan, especially our growth. What properties do we really need as we move forward with the growth of our school district over 10 or 15 or 20 years? Do any of these properties hold any value? Do some of them? What makes sense logically for us as we look out 20 or 30 years? Because if we don't need them, let's dispose of them. If we can put them to some good purpose, then let's utilize them. If we sold some and built a ropes course with the money, or I don't know what we could do, but I think holding property just to hold it if it's not going to serve a valuable purpose for us is, you know, if we don't have a plan for the next 20 years, let's take the money and use it for something good instead of just holding scrub brush. So anyway, I think that would be very helpful from a committee standpoint to look at the big picture of what can be done with the property.
Yeah, I certainly think that we need to do an overview and set priorities as to what the goal of our committee is. But Sherry had specific things yesterday.
Well, so shouldn't that somewhat culminate in our March 9th update and approve the long range facilities plan?
Sure.
That's a goal.
Tail end of that.
I think it would, but March is going to come quick. So I think the committee can be very helpful in looking at all of those things and getting a recommendation for it.
that will be our goal.
All right. Next item on our agenda are OSB elections and resolutions. So I believe we have 3 candidates on our ballot to send off as a regional representative for the OSBA. I didn't see any names that I recognized from our board for some reason. Cliff, you didn't want to sign up again?
I'm aware of the lady from Phoenix, Fallon. I think she was on a ballot for the Legislative Policy Committee. She served 2 terms, she said, so far, and I guess now maybe is interested in as an opportunity to continue to serve. I don't know her personally. We had a candidate from Eagle Point that we supported the last time I remember. And I didn't know whether that, which candidate won that election, the Eagle Point or Phoenix Talent. So I'm trying to put that together. The third person I looked at was Robert Heileman. He was in our Grants Pass Rotary Club for 4 years. He's not in it now. I don't know why. I believe he's in the dental business. But if you read his application, both he and the lady from Phoenix Talent, they have the desire to really put the Southern Oregon District forward in their applications. So that sounded good in most cases. I did not see the third applicant on the website when I went into it, but I see it's there now. Where were they from? Prospect?
Well, I have
Prospect,
Ray
yeah.
Williams.
Oh,
The
that
Prospect
right, yeah.
Charter School, which I wasn't aware of, but it's nice to see some people getting interested in doing these things. It's been a while since Rogue River's had anybody, for one. And I like trying to support the nearby communities like Rogue River, but that probably shouldn't give them any favoritism just because of their location to us, but we're the ones casting a vote. So we might be interested in having the gentleman from Rogue River, Robert Heilman. I don't know how I pronounce it. I was trying to remember him from our Rotary meetings, and I couldn't. I don't think he was there long enough, only 4 years. Don't know why that. The lady from Phoenix Talent, is it Sharon? Dawn. I believe she's been schooled by the Craig Pruitt, who's been on the board of OSV for years now. And they changed the ruling where he can stay on forever. And I think he would probably speak highly of her, and then it looked like maybe he's stepping down. So anyway, there are a couple of people there that either Rogue River or Phoenix Talent that I do know who they are. They're both capable. They both want to put Southern Oregon's best foot forward.
Something I think, acknowledging that Southern Oregon is comprised of as large as 13,000 to 14,000 students in Medford, all the way down to Prospect with under 200. And so you have this range of sizes, and so representation for Southern Oregon varies quite a bit in terms of, and so I think that might be something to play in is in that voice, so to speak, is being representative, more representative of the consortium.
When I read through the candidate questionnaires, Robert's seemed to kind of speak to me the most. I think the part that I appreciated was speaking to his plans on how he would his plan to get familiar with the other districts in our region and how he'd want to work with the other. I think he referred to it to the Region 5 school districts, including coming to board meetings of different school districts to get to know each individual district's, challenges, struggles, victories. Although Dawn's was, a strong application, well, that component, his answer to what do you want to accomplish as serving as the OSBA Board of Directors member, that rang true with me, and so I was leaning towards Robert for that reason.
And I did. It says I would love to connect closely with our fellow boards, and I thought I saw that as well. Has the Phoenix gal Dawn, has she served before?
I'm the legislative council.
Right.
I'm sure.
She's on the legislative policy committee teacher.
Yeah.
And so I looked at that and thought, it seems to me I have at least seen Don Watson at these, well, like the meeting we had last week, kind of events. And I don't remember hearing the name Robert Hillman, or Hyman, or whatever, at all before. And while I like the thought of, visiting other things, he hasn't taken the opportunity to visit the meetings that he could have met other districts at, like the fall regionals, and I don't remember Rogue River at annual conventions. And I know that has mentioned Phoenix Talent. Fred Hood has been an outstanding representative, I think, for this area. And then another factor that kind of pushes me towards Don is the fact that Phoenix Talent has such a huge challenge in front of them because of the Almeida fire that I feel having her on this board would help that district and strengthen our whole district. So I would move to elect Don Watson.
I'll second. I think she'll do well. She's had the preparation of the legislative policy committee, which is the typical way you start in and then go to the next level. So she's ready. I also noted she chaired their bond committee that was successful recently. I don't know if that's a kudo or not, but it means that they really believe in her, I think, in that school board. So it'd be real logical, real natural for her to just keep moving on up. And hopefully, I wish somebody from our board would get involved. OSBA.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful experience.
They meet on Tuesday. Just keep signing up for stuff.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. We need a roll call vote for this, or?
We'll need a roll call vote for the public.
All right, so the motion on the table then is to submit Don Watson's name forward as our recommendation for the OSBA Board of Directors. We have a roll call vote.
Member Gilbane?
Yes.
Member Durbin? Yes. Member Brownell?
Yes.
Board Chair Nelson?
Yes.
Member Coleman?
Yes.
Member Wilkins?
Yes.
Member Richardson?
Yes.
Congratulations, Don. You have GP7's vote. Good luck.
Isn't,
He's so
I
creepy.
was a little firecracker of a superintendent. Sheet over there.
Phoenix Talent is Brent Perry. You got Cindy Record, formerly Eagle Point. She retired last year.
Yeah.
That's probably who you're thinking of.
I like her.
Cindy's got a big presence.
Yeah.
Is there not a resolution also that needs to be voted on?
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, the resolution, yes.
I would make a motion that we approve that resolution as submitted.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We'll take a roll call vote for our resolution for the OSBA.
Gonna switch it up on you people. Member Richardson?
On for the middle.
Member Wilkins?
Wait, what page are we on?
It is
This one
It's
right here.
after
resumes.
Clement Ray Williams.
Three
Last item before the action
Three
items
in
tab.
from action items tab.
Jerry wasn't
We're
ready.
gonna take a while. I need to go.
Read this before the meeting, actually.
Do you remember
Yes.
now? Member Wilkins?
Yes.
Member Coleman?
Aye.
Board Chair Nelson?
Yes.
Member Brownell?
Yes.
Member Durbin?
Yes.
Member Gilbert?
Yes.
I'm glad you switched it up because I was just about to say, by the time you get over here, you're like, Member Wilkins, Member Richardson.
All right, well, if we haven't done enough fun with our roll call votes, we'll head on to our action items for the evening. So we have approval of the first reading of revised policies and ARs, 5.1.1 PA, sexual harassment, and 5.1.2 is AR, which stands for
Administrative. Yeah,
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
I just said it 5 times when I'm talking to Jamie. Administrative regulation.
Nope. We will entertain a motion to approve those revised policies and administrative regulations.
This is Member Durbin, so moved. Second, Member Wilkins.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
So I admit that I didn't go from Crossline to new policy. Can you tell us?
Director Cantola and I spent a lot of time on this, and I put him in charge of this particular policy, and because it does outline some very specific procedures now, requirements of how sexual harassment is interviewed, how the interview occurs, who makes the ruling, and then the next step to verify that ruling. So Director Cantola, I know you're out there and you were chomping at the bit to do this tonight.
Oh.
Hey guys. So yeah, the last time the legislature met, they made some pretty significant changes. And so that's why the policy's updated, and they very clearly outline, Title IX director, or Title IX, officer is supposed to be the one that investigates and pretty clearly outlays how we're supposed to investigate and all that kind of stuff. And so we ran this by Bill as well, just because there's so much legalese and stuff in it, and he was comfortable with the way it ended up. And we didn't actually make changes from what OSBA recommended on these. So complicated world we live in. The other thing that we do is everybody that's a volunteer, even if they're a virtual volunteer, they go through a Senate Bill 155 check. Teachers go through TSPC. Non-teachers, including the contractors that work at the schools, go through ODE for a sexual check to make sure that there are no investigations current with them. So the legislature really upped the requirements for investigating and making sure that everything is clean with the sexual harassment issues. So
I have one question, because I noticed there's an Oregon section and a federal section for procedures and notices, and if there's a difference between the two, or is there a reason why there's two different sections to differentiate between what the Oregon procedure and notice looks like versus the federal procedure and notice? Just since at first I thought it was a duplicate, like misprinting, but then I realized it actually is two separate sections. So just curious if there's a certain set of circumstances where the federal comes into play versus the state, like as soon as the harassment crosses state lines, it becomes a federal thing. I don't know. And so that was my one question, is the difference between those two.
that's a good question. I will have to look that up.
So Danny, the one that I gave you today, the AR2 was on the federal piece that you're looking over.
Yeah, there's a second. I know there's a second AR that comes into play. In fact, they have it in front of me to make sure that we're doing the federal procedures as well. It is not, as I look at it, as lengthy as this one, but it's still pretty complicated. And we're going to have to get a legal opinion probably in the federal AR. It talks about, is it clear and convincing evidence, or is it a preponderance of evidence? And then so we'll come back with a recommendation for you as to whether or not, which level of evidence we recommend we use to meet the standard. Ironic that they give us that choice, but we'll talk with Bill about that. So next time we meet, you'll see the AR2
I'm sure it's fine as is. I just am curious. And so we all know as people that need to be following this stuff, if they're, what's our options or.
Really, the Oregon standard
Yeah.
is higher than the
Perfect.
federal standard.
Okay.
That's the bottom line. It's like we have to name who that Title IX person is going to live.
Okay.
Pam's name is in the policy
Okay.
under
I saw
the
that,
state
yeah.
regs, and then that, you don't need to go to that level or degree, and so the state policy is a higher standard.
So you could be guilty of sexual harassment for the state, but it wouldn't be a federal offense.
It has that potential.
That's just wrong. So Superintendent Cole, will the adoption of these new policies reduce the incident of sexual harassment?
Will it reduce? Fortunately, we don't have a high incidence rate of that. I think all it does is creates higher accountability and procedurally the thoroughness of it, the reporting of it, and all of that. So it ups the standard for us to make sure we are doing very thorough. I do not believe it will necessarily reduce what we deem sexual harassment. Not fortunately, Danny, I don't know. Have you had to deal with a sexual harassment complaint since you've been in HR?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a major one that we investigated not too long ago.
Oh, I'm familiar with that one.
But yeah, employee to employee, and then we had a student to student one that we investigated. So a couple in the last 7 years, Gary. So not too many. And we do a good job of doing the notice and that kind of thing that we have. If you can look on our website, and my name is listed there as a contact person for the Title IX officer. And there's posters in every building that has the reporting, who you report to, and that kind of thing. And so I don't anticipate that this will reduce the number of sexual harassment things. And sometimes, Gary, when you make it more out there, sometimes you get more reports, which if it's happening, we want them to report. So that would be an okay consequence.
Really like that.
Yeah, but the hope is that if they're happening, that they get are reported. They get
I don't know that we want none. We want the ones that are happening to be reported. So the goal isn't to make it zero. The goal is to make it so that if it happens, it gets reported and taken care of. And that's really the goal, regardless of what the number is. If we went back 20 years, I'm sure it's happening all the time, but we never got reported. So the number was zero, but that didn't mean the behavior was what it needed to be. And in this case, the goal isn't to have zero, it's to have as many as times as it happens, it needs to be investigated and responded to appropriately. So that's the goal. But hopefully people will learn that behavior is acceptable. But we want, I appreciate the policy regardless of the federal or state implication. It spells out exactly how we need to walk through that process, and that's really the most important thing to make sure that we don't drop the ball. I agree, the goal is zero reports, the goal is zero sexual harassment. But we don't live in a world where it's zero.
The one thought while I was reading this was just kind of under our pillar for equity, inclusion, and considering other types of harassment that may exist in our society and in the school district. If looking at some of our policies and procedures around other types of harassment wouldn't be worth a look through. Not that, because this is a different, the state's recommending it and they've got very clear procedures that they want us to follow, but there's probably good things from here that we could potentially glean from and make sure are included in our other policies that address other types of harassment.
You will be seeing a new policy coming your way, hence the reason I'm going to ask you for 2 board meetings in November that fall into that category. We adopted a policy on equity a year and a half ago. We're always updating bullying and harassment to expand that in our virtual world and thinking about electronic bullying. And so I believe that
that is something that we're pretty on top of with the most updated policies as new laws come about and things get legislated.
All right, so we have a motion, which has been accepted. Any further discussion on those new policies? Roll call vote, Tanya. Regardless of the order you'd like to go.
Member Richardson.
Yes.
Member Wilkins. Yes. Coleman.
Yes.
Member Brownell. Yes. Board Chair Nelson.
Yes.
Member Durbin. Yes. Member Davis.
Yes. Except that gives. You know when my turn was. All right, so our next item, 5.2, approval of second reading and final reading of revised policies. ARs, we have our unmanned aircraft system, aka drone policy or special education evaluation and eligibility procedures. And then communicable diseases for staff, students, and staff and students. We'll entertain a motion to approve those policies.
Member DeLaGrange moves to approve all the policies listed under 5.2.
Number second. All right, so it's been moved and seconded. We have any discussion?
Member Richardson would like to say that drone policy is too excessive, but realizes his opinion is in the minority.
Thank you. Any further comments? And, communicable diseases, this will be a hot topic for us moving forward when a vaccine becomes available for COVID at some point in time. And I looked through it, but I didn't necessarily see. We just have maybe a game plan for what to expect from a school administrative perspective for students who refuse to get the vaccine. Will it be mandatory for the kids to come back to school, or do we have any idea what that's going to look like?
We don't have any idea what that's going to look like. We would expect to be meeting with superintendents and OSBA, COSA, that and would anticipate there may be some legislative action around that specifically. So I think it's pull on your seats until that vaccine comes out.
And they changed 3 times.
So we'll.
And Oregon signed on with California today to have an independent study conducted on the vaccine once available before making it available in the state or something. I read. So was announced today, I believe. Governor Newsom first came out with it, and then Oregon and Washington followed.
We might not have school until 2025. I don't know how many more studies are going to have to be done on studies. All right, so it's been moved and seconded for approval of 5.2, and so let's have a roll call vote.
Member DeLaGrange.
Yes.
Member Durbin. Yes. Member Brownell. Yes. Board Chair Nelson.
Yes.
Aye. Yes.
Yes. All right, 5.3, approval of our SIA grant agreement. We'll entertain a motion to approve $1.55 million with all of the strengths that come.
Member DeLaGrange moves to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Gary, should we just ask for your? So any further comments or?
I read through the grant. I looked at the strain. We have people at work all the time who show up with bigger buckets than this. Say, will you please do this for us? We say no, because it's not advantageous to us. These are not in a direction we're trying to head. It's not that we couldn't do the work, it's not that we wouldn't like the money, but it's just not good for the company. And much of the strings far exceed the $1.5 million. At some level, I think we could turn down the $1.5 and actually be better off in outcomes that we Probably not on this first set. But if their agreement is a template for the future, they will soon be telling the district how to spend essentially their entire budget, not just the grant. So that's my reluctance for this.
Is it your reluctance to vote ongoing or this first?
The first time it's going to be okay.
Okay.
But
You're
you
just
can
marking.
clearly see that they will soon be directing many activities of the district far in excess.
So do you have an example of a string that particularly?
I didn't bring them.
Okay. Can you talk about that? Do you promise to say I told you so when in the future?
That's the only reason I'm discussing it.
Okay. I'm starting to, I learned Gary speak a little, I'm learning a little bit more every time, so I can kind of get to the end game there.
Okay, so we have a motion that's been seconded. Any further discussion?
If we accept it this year, does that preclude us from saying no next year? There we go.
Just before that, I told you so. We will come back next year. Okay, let's have a roll call vote, please.
David Range.
Yes.
Urban.
Yes.
Member Brownell.
Yes.
Board Chair Nelson.
Yes.
Member Coleman.
Yes.
Member Wilkins.
Yes.
Member Litchfield.
Yes.
All right. There's your $1.55 million. Thank you. Ms. Stringer. All right, so that wraps up our meeting for tonight. Our next meeting will be on November 10th at 5 p.m. And then a reminder, we have the annual convention. You may all stay at whatever hotel you choose this year. So congratulations. And then we will meet on the 24th.
Yeah, and the meeting will be nice and short. So there is a mandatory policy that we need to have in place regarding hate speech, hate symbols. That needs to be in by January 1. And we could do it with one reading in November and one in December. But we really would like to get that resolution passed and get a message out to our district. It's a message of equity, and it's a message of how we treat people, and so we really want to craft that, and that gives us a little more time than I believe December 8th between then and the break. And so it can be nice and short. We can do it 100% over Zoom. If you want to Zoom in as a member and you happen to be out of town for Thanksgiving, we will accommodate, but we need at least quorum, and we're hopeful to have that policy passed and resolved. So that's why.
So is this the template one that you got the email on?
It's available on OSBA website, and do they include a link to OSBA sample policy? They did, yeah. It's one you and I had discussion about.
So are you going to bring it to us verbatim sample policy?
I'm working with Director Cantola on that. It's wanting to ensure your concerns are addressed in the policy, so to speak, is to the extent we can.
I have a really hard time with that policy.
Yeah.
I'm eager to hear your differences before we put that policy hearing.
Yeah. So Gary, Danny and I might want to meet with you before that policy comes to the board, so that November 20.
Because you promised it's a short.
Is a short meeting. I promised a short meeting.
No, yeah, we haven't seen sample policy. But it
It's
would be.
available, OSBA sent it out. Okay, it's
Am I
been
the
a
only
while.
one that
I
doesn't
recall 2
I
weeks
haven't,
ago.
I haven't.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Did you say, David?
Can you resend around the 13th?
Thank you.
Yeah, we used to send them a link to the sample policy. Actually. Yeah, be great.
We first get to see it at the
You'll see it on the 24th.
wasn't, we see it on the 10th and then the second reading the 21st.
First reading on the 10th, second reading.
So the 24th can still be short. It'll be the second reading. Hopefully.
Are the release of student belong model?
Sounds good.
We will adjourn our meeting.